Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So this is a little bit different to what I usually do on this channel. It is a reaction video. It's also covering something I would know quite a good bit about, or at least I hope so. Simply put, very simply put, I have some very strong qualifications for this. First off, I'm Irish. Secondly, I have a degree in history. And thirdly, I'm actually quite a big fan of Ludwig, but have never watched this video. So I am going to do a reaction to it. I'm going to be breaking down some of the points, kind of see how this comes across. The only thing I know about this is he doesn't know a lot about Irish history and just kind of wants to figure out what's going on with it. So all that being said, if you enjoy this video, enjoy my critique and commentary or whatever, do like the video, subscribe for more, and yeah, comment if I made a mistake or something like that. That's always good, isn't it? Getting told you're wrong. All right, let's jump into it.
What is up, boys? Welcome back to the YouTube. Now, this is a weird video, but I randomly thought, why is there an Ireland in a Northern Ireland? Why is
That's very simply answered. A lot of shit happened.
there not just one Ireland, a land of ire? I didn't know, so I looked up this video.
That's
it
the
turns
funny
out
joke.
it's way more complicated than I thought, and
It
I was
is.
a little in over my head. So I did a lot of research, and I even called a few of my Irish friends
Oh,
to
that's
figure
cool.
out what the heck's even going on over in Ireland.
Very
Now,
nice.
Admittedly, I'm an American, which means my education's dog water. I have no idea what's going on around the world. So if I get a few things wrong, be a little patient because, again, I'm just trying to learn out here. If you have any information you want to drop in the comments, feel
And that's what we want to see. We want to see people wanting to learn about the situation, who've an open mind going into it, and are willing to find out what they believe is wrong. And that's where growth comes from. Ludwig, fair play. That's exactly what we're looking for. Perfect. Good place to start.
feel free. Also, by the way, boys, about 40% of the people who watch my videos aren't even subbed, which is...
That's great to know, lad.
So do me a favor.
This is the island of Ireland. The island is politically split between the Republic of Ireland, an independent country, and Northern Ireland,
Is there a video of someone doing this in English? I can't read subtitles.
Why would you do that to our Donegal brothers? He's from Donegal, right? That's very... Alright, I either really fucked this up. Either he's from Donegal or he is Northern Irish. Likely from around the Derry area, because they've a closer accent to Donegal, but it is 100% Irish. And he's speaking English. You racist.
Just kidding, fucking around.
Lud gets cancelled over this video.
Scotland, England, and Wales form the United Kingdom. But why exactly is Ireland split, and when did it happen?
Okay, this accent is so peculiar, though. It has to be Irish,
It is.
Welsh,
No,
Scottish.
definitely not.
Close.
After the Normans had successfully invaded England, and
Normans? Normans like normies?
No.
the Lordship of Ireland was a
The Normans are a very interesting culture, right? I have a degree in history, so I can say that. Anyone can say that. But I just feel like I need to explain why I'm speaking with such authority on things. Imposter syndrome or whatever. But yeah, so like the Normans are a very interesting group of people. More or less what happened with them was as they began as Vikings who were given land in northern France. They moved in, they kind of developed their own culture. In fact, like they're very different to other medieval cultures of the time. They were kind of coming towards it's the middle of the era when they really became very popular. They conquered England in 1066, very famously, and then they conquered Ireland in a very interesting way in 1169. And a specific figure known as Strongbow came over to Ireland to help out the Irish and Munster in a war against other kings and chiefdoms. And as a result, he got married to that king's daughter, had the king killed, and took over. So a little bit Game of Thronesy there, except less incest, but you know. Ireland has a very interesting and rich history if you have the patience to look into it.
Papal possession held by the King of England.
All right, we need to look up papal position. I
Papal
don't know
possession.
What the fuck that means?
Can this dude not speak? Papal position. And what did he say? Papal position, he said? Yeah, it's papal possession. And it's essentially what happened was the King of England was given domain over Ireland and became the Lord of Ireland, and then was later given ecumenical oversight of Ireland, basically controlling the religious events and so on going there. Basically, so the Pope didn't have to deal with it. At the time, there was a lot of other things going on, especially with the fall of Byzantium and so on. So there was a lot of really big moving pieces at the time that the Pope was dealing with. This was also around the time of the Fifth Crusade. There were a lot of crusades. I think there was like a total of 14 crusades. Only the first 3 are any noteworthy though.
But I guess the Pope himself. So the Pope's like, I have too much to deal with. This shit in Italy is crazy right now. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give you papal possession. You can deal with all the religion shit in Ireland because I'm so busy.
Yeah, that's
and I don't
basically
really
right,
give a
yeah.
fuck about Ireland because I don't even understand what they're saying. So you get that place. But I give it to you. I can take it back, but I give it to you for now.
That's exactly right, yeah.
This was the beginning of what would become centuries of English and later British rule over the island of Ireland. After Henry VIII's death in 1547, his Protestant-raised 9-year-old son Edward VI ascended to the throne.
You died at age 16, 15? He died very, very young. He was only in power about 6.5 years. So I don't know if he was close to being 16 or if he was actually 16 at the point of his death. But yeah, very, very young ruler.
Throne.
What are you doing on the throne? Do you know how to pee standing up even?
Probably
He died
not.
of illness just a few years later at the age of 15.
I'm sorry for
15.
talking
All
shit.
right.
I
Good,
hope
good.
you lived a good life, my man. Short but sweet, we say. Short but sweet.
That's some strong backpedaling there.
Protestant rep-
Hey, what up, gamer? I'm learning between Northern Ireland and Ireland.
Break it down for me. What's the big
Oh,
deal?
I'm only a bit in, but so far, the King of England.
Okay, so he's going to break down and everything so far for Atriarch. Okay, let's see what he has to say.
Invaded Ireland with the help of the Normies,
Okay.
and then
The normies?
yeah, the Normans. As
Like they
they're
didn't watch
properly known.
anime? They
Yeah, they were like
It wasn't
they hated
invented yet.
anime, they lived
Actually,
it, so
no,
they're pretty
probably
yoked,
was.
So they kind of
Yeah.
rolled the Irish.
they like touch grass a lot.
Eh.
Yeah, they loved grass.
Yeah, that explains why their side lost, I guess.
So King of England now is the Lord of Ireland, and the Pope was like, I don't want to deal with Ireland, so I'll make you the Pope of Ireland. You have papal possession.
Why would the Pope give up?
He was just like, you get to deal with the.
Okay. Ludwig, you need to ban half of your chat there. I saw far too many up the Raz. We're not getting to the Ra yet. This is a long video. We're 3 minutes in. If I'd be surprised if we see it before 20 minutes in. Like, the Ra isn't coming anytime soon, lads. What are you doing? Let's not go talking about that.
religion there. He just delegated, basically.
Yeah, okay, but still, like if you're
He thought
voice
the
of
Pope thought
God,
Ireland
you
was.
shouldn't be-
He thought Ireland was cringe. He was like,
okay, I got
I-
it. Thank you for
I
putting it in
guess.
terms I can understand. 'cause
he was like, they're Gaelic. I don't fuck with
sometimes-
that. They speak a
yeah.
weird language. They have mountains.
Okay, they speak a weird language. I have an issue with that, right? Alright. The issue I have with that is, well, obviously I'm fluent in Irish because I'm one of those weird Irish people in the like 4% of fluent Irish speakers, keeping the language that little bit alive. But if it wasn't for Ireland and if it wasn't for Spain, English couldn't exist in the way we know it today. Neither could French, Spanish, or Italian, because they're Romance languages, and English is obviously very heavily inspired by that. A lot of their words are very similar to those in Latin, and the reason is the Irish and the Spanish were the only people who kept writing. Like, we had huge monasteries with huge libraries contributing to the written word, keeping it alive. We were, like, across all of medieval Europe, literacy numbers were basically zero. And then you have populations of people writing pretty much exclusively for a long time in Latin, and then later in the vernacular, although those were strictly for non-religious texts and would be things about herbology and animal husbandry and that kind of thing, other things that monks would have dealt with that weren't strictly religious. But yeah, it's very bizarre to me that it's like, oh, the language is cringe. That wasn't really the attitude. The attitude was, I was like, these guys are still doing everything that we wish we could be doing, but we can't fucking read.
All's good and dandy for 400 years, except all the normies actually become huge weebs and start.
It always happens, dude.
They assimilate.
You start out a normie.
I know.
You either live long enough to become a weeb. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you either die a normie or live long enough to become a weeb. So all the normies became weebs, and they call themselves more Irish than Irish, more weebs than the people who made the anime, honestly. And so.
Okay. Ooh, I don't 100% agree with that. That's a little bit wrong, a little bit problematic, but he is trying, and I'm willing to move past that.
Okay. They really, although on paper owned Ireland, they owned like a square foot of it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and it just doesn't work out. All right, well, I'm not going to interrupt your videos.
That square foot, by the way, was known as the Pale, and that's the area around Dublin, which became a massive trade centre because of Norman influence. Organised trade was less common in the rest of Ireland. It did exist, but it was far less common. And because of British funding, the Pale, the area around Dublin, which would include Drogheda, where historically my family is from, and as well as like all the way down to like Kildare, they all would have been hubs for commerce because the English were forcing money into it to basically get it going, because it was really good for them because it was taken away from the mainland of Britain, and that would mean that they'd be able to more risky trade would happen there. It was also very heavily defended. It was they were all walled cities at this point. In fact, the Normans kind of pioneered what became the middle to late Middle Ages and medieval whatever walled cities. They had their own design which became very popular in Ireland and England, primarily because of their influence.
Very interesting.
This was until 1649 when Oliver Cromwell.
Okay. I have shit to say. Okay, Oliver Cromwell, easily the most evil person in the eyes of the Irish, because he was a racist. He was incredibly driven to completely stomp out the Irish because he believed them to be lesser people. They deserved to be destroyed, and famously had the saying, "To hell or to Connacht," because Connacht was seen to be a barren land where crops couldn't grow, so you might as well be going to hell anyway, in his eyes. And what a piece of shit monster. There is a road in my familial hometown of Drogheda called Scarlet Street. The reason it's called Scarlet Street is because Oliver Cromwell had his men line up the Irish, men, women, children, and at Scarlet Street is the top of the hill, and behead them. So their heads and blood would flow down the street. Now, records of this are a little bit shaky, but depending on what you read, the streets were stained crimson for based on sources, between 5 and 45 years. Now, I'm more inclined to go with the 5, because 45 seems a bit extreme, but this man was our Thanos. He was the most hated guy in Irish history, and he was despicable. The things he had his people do in Ireland, the things he let his people do and turned a blind eye to, is shocking considering he was a Puritan. He was all about strict religious belief. If like to the point he banned Christmas because it was set on a pagan holiday, and if you were to celebrate in any way, because celebrations were illegal, you could be hung, you could be imprisoned for life, you could be killed on the spot. And it's awful, man. All right.
New model army
On with
conquered
this.
Ireland after overthrowing the English monarchy, executing Charles I, and declaring himself Lord Protector of Scotland, England, and Ireland.
What the fuck? Hold up. I need
Yeah,
more
no, he was-
information on Oliver Cromwell. Okay, so King Charles I was the second son of King James VI, who was
Okay, King James VI he was King James VI of Scotland, and then he became King James I of England when he inherited the title.
the king through incest, and Oliver Cromwell just killed him and just became the new king. He just killed the king.
He killed Charles I, who was the son of James I. But yes,
What?
he
How
pretty
did he
close.
get away with that? He killed the king of England, and that's like their peak, right?
Yeah, he killed them due to a popular uprising.
I mean, that's when they're thriving in the 1600s, no? And he just murked him? And he died 5 years later. What the so much effort to die. You killed
So much effort to die. Yeah. A lot of people wished he died sooner. Like even in the UK, not even just the Irish. The Scottish hated him, the Welsh hated him, and the English were okay with him for a while. But over time, they grew to hate his strict religious standing, and it completely went tits up from there.
the king of England, took over Ireland, and then you just died? Wow, good shit, bro. Way to get it done. 5 years. Nice.
At this point, the majority of people in Scotland and England were Protestant, and many were uneasy with James II as their monarch. However, next in line to the throne was his daughter Mary, who was Protestant. This
Yeah.
all changed in 1688 with the birth.
So stressful. I would be so pissed off if I was a citizen over these past 500 years, where it's like flip-flop, flip-flop. Are we Protestant or are we Catholic? Can we pick one?
That's what the Irish did. They're like, nah fam, we'll stay Catholic, thanks. But yeah, alright, so we're getting into William of Orange, so we're getting into the Dutch King of England, probably deal with the Jacobite Wars, so there were wars fought all over the UK and Ireland. Actually, most of it was focused in Ireland because he had supporters here because he was Catholic. James, I mean. And then all kind of came together at the siege of Limerick, where things kind of finally he lost and things were settled, and William of Orange took the throne. So that was William III of England. So yeah, very, very active in this time period. Yeah, so that was when you'd have the Siege of Cork, the Battle of the Boyne, and several other major battles in Ireland. So, yeah, very, very important history to know.
Jeez, what is going on here? Can we just land on one so I can love my God in the way we think is correct? Every other person is like, no, I'm Catholic again. Okay, I don't care. Can you guys are a family. Pick as a family. What happens on Sundays? Do they just split up to different churches? They got like 18 different churches they got to
No, because the other church is illegal at that time.
go to? All right, see you later. I'm going to mine. You go to your shitty church. Haha, they sing at mine. Your church is lame. They sing at mine. We're hip.
Yeah, I respect that.
Your church all
that's,
lame.
that's a good point.
With his son, the would-be James III, who would undoubtedly be raised Catholic. So with this change, it looked like Scotland and England would have a Catholic monarchy for the
Okay.
foreseeable future.
Right.
The birth of the king's son sparked what became known as the Glorious Revolution, in which the two major political parties invited William of Orange to invade England and take the throne.
Yeah, William of Orange, the Dutch monarch at the time, was invited over. And that's what began the Jacobite War.
Why? Oh, fuck. Okay, I'm sorry. We gotta back up. Who the fuck is James of Orange? Why is he? Is this like
He's
a
William.
pirate? who
William
ate
of Orange.
oranges to avoid scurvy? And apparently, this dude is
He was
like
Dutch.
John Wick, because they were so confident William of Orange could murk like the literal king.
He
England.
did. So
And he did it.
William of Orange successfully defeated his father-in-law, who also happened to be his uncle, since William and Mary were first cousins, and they took the throne together as William III and Mary II, king and queen of.
woo, more inbreeding, yay!
Oh, okay. So he's not a rando. He's the John Wick. He's already in the crown. He's part
Yeah.
of the crown. He's one of the incest
Oh, they wouldn't have brought him over if he wasn't. They wouldn't have offered him the kingship.
weird cousins that would most likely, if he hadn't taken over, die a forgettable step grand cousin twice removed of the crown. But since the government was like, we want Protestants, you're Protestant and you're part of the crown, so if you take over, it's kosher. That actually 5 head from the government, because that way if he took over, the people would follow.
Yeah, 5 head from Parliament is not something you ever hear anymore, no matter what country you're from. Like, yeah, no, that doesn't happen ever anymore. It's probably the only, like, clever thing that has happened, like, government since, like, well, since its creation, actually.
Because it's like, he still got the blood.
Of course, this also made them king and queen of Ireland, and with a Catholic
Kings, are they going to mention King and Queen's County, also known as Leishanaffley?
majority, this was obviously not received well. This started
No, they
a
didn't
war in
mention it,
Ireland
okay.
between the native Irish, led by James II, who were mainly Catholic.
Wait, where did James II
Oh, okay, so... All right, fine. It's still, they're getting into the Jacobites now.
come from? I thought Orange Man took over.
For the next century,
Okay, interesting note there. They labeled it as the Williamite War. In Ireland is usually referred to as the Jacobite War because we were on the Jacobite side.
Catholic
This is so... come on. I'm trying so hard to follow. Okay, James II escaped. Yes. I get it. So what happened is James II was the King of England, the King of Ireland, and a Catholic because he fled to France after his father got murdered. And so,
Correct.
when he got defeated as King of England by William III, William Orange incest baby, he decided to
Yeah.
escape to Ireland, where all the Catholics in Ireland would be like, man, we thought you were poggers, bro. That was fucked up what they did to you.
Yeah.
And then You Say Run plays, and he's like, together we will defeat William III of England. We will take back England. We will make it Catholic. We will destroy the Protestants and bring it back to what it was before Henry. Let's go!
Yeah, pretty much.
against the kingdoms of Scotland.
And then they lost.
The Williamite War in Ireland resulted in victory for
And then he
King
lost.
William. In
Yeah.
1607, the Kingdom of Scotland and the Kingdom of England joined to create the Kingdom of Great Britain.
Oh, that's how they got the flag. Whoa!
We're already jumping to the Act of Union? Okay, that's just a... Okay. Well, I suppose we were in 1690 there just a moment ago, and it has been going a little bit fast. I'm just... There was a couple other major things that happened in Ireland in the meantime, even though it was only, 17 years? But, yeah. All right. Cool.
Oh, that's dope. Feels bad, man, for the Welsh. I feel like the Welsh should have had maybe throw a dragon in there or something for the Welsh.
I absolutely agree. They 100% should have chucked in the dragon.
They combine the flags, and Ireland's like, bro, we don't even get, to be a part of the flag. There's no orange that I see. This is fucked up. I'm upset. Let's rebel. The French did it. We can do it too.
Okay, why orange though? Yes, there is on the Irish flag there is orange, but the green is the iconic part. Like our flag when we became a free state in 1921, when that happened, the flag was literally just a green background with a golden harp, which is actually why, technically speaking, the original Irish flag was green, white, and gold, not green, white, and orange, and it was later changed to orange to kind of amplify us kind of coming together with the North and trying and chill things out. But troubles and stuff were going on at the time. Doesn't matter.
They failed.
Well, it
They're
does,
like,
but just
"Damn,
not
should've
right now.
brought a guillotine. That was stupid of us. We fucked up there. That's probably why we failed. Is no guillotine." And so they're like, but they're still mauled. They failed, but they're like, we're still mad. I want you to know we failed, but we're mad.
Yeah, fair.
And so then they joined and they added to the flag. They did add to the flag, so they're part of the flag. And so everybody except for the Welsh.
Yeah, they added St. Patrick's Cross. That's what that's called, by the way. The English cross in the middle, as you can see, is St. George's Cross, and then you have the Irish Cross of St. Patrick, and then I forget the name of the... I forget what it's called. What was the Scottish cross called? St. Edward? No, it wasn't St. Edward. Edward's Cross? I don't know. Something like that. I don't remember. Leave a comment down below what I'm forgetting.
Is getting a piece of this ass, but they're like, fuck your flag. Your flag's actually kind of cringe. All the lines are off-center diagonally. Doesn't even make sense.
Ireland.
And then they passed a bill to go independent, all right? Run this bitch no features, but then...
Okay, we're skipping Wolf Tone. We are going straight into the 1911, 1912 Home Rule Bills, straight to John Redmond. Okay. John Redmond is a very interesting figure. He wanted home rule, which meant that they wouldn't be independent, but they would have self-governance. So English laws would still always supersede Irish laws, but we would have the right to make our own laws, hold assembly, and our own elections, which is a lot of people saw at the time as a stepping stone to becoming fully independent and becoming a republic. But John Redmond actually wasn't about that. He just was hyper focused on home rule. So yeah, just a brief overview there of what I'm pretty sure was just skipped over. They were promised that in 1914, so 3 years after the initial bill was put forward, and the King of England at the time had decided, here, the House of Lords can only block a bill 3 times. After that, it has to go through. And that law is still around today, as far as I'm aware. And that ruling is still in place. Because the House of Lords were like, no, we own Ireland. We own huge parts of land in Ireland. No. And then eventually he said, here, you have to let it through if it comes through a 3rd time. So they're like, fine, but we'll delay it to 1914. And then World War I happened.
In World War I, they're like, that's fair. It's a world war.
On hold. With the British Army still occupied.
That is true. A lot of people were like, here, fair enough. There's a world war going on. We'll wait till afterwards. A lot of some people believe that the UK should have stopped or should have actually allowed the bill to go through when it was, because we would have supported them against the Germans, and because they didn't, we actually in secret supported the Germans and got help from the Germans. And then 1916 happened and all that fun stuff with the Easter Rising, because a group of people were very, very pissed off they didn't get home rule. And others were just fanatics who thought home rule wasn't enough in the first place, and if we got it, we'd just be stuck with it for another 800 years until something drastic was done about it. So why not just do the drastic thing now?
Occupied with the war in Europe, Irish Republicans staged a rebellion in Dublin called the
Easter Rising.
The goal
There we
of
go.
putting an end to British rule.
Oh, better yet, they said, let's hold this bill. And UK was like, thank you for doing that. And then they said, cap. And then they just yoinked Dublin.
Ireland and a step.
It wasn't a lot of people, and the Rising was on paper a complete failure. The only reason it's ever talked about now is because All right, let's put this simply, right? If the English, and specifically Maxwell, General Maxwell, wasn't it? I could be wrong with his surname. Max something. Anyway, if he didn't insist on the execution of the leaders of the rising, we would not be a republic. Because, simply put, the brutality he showed in specifically the execution of John Connolly was absurd. Like, that brutality turned the opinion of the Irish people against them. Because the support for a rebellion was basically non-existent. It was always doomed to fail. Because there just wasn't the support for it there as well. You had the IVF who was into it, which was the Irish Volunteers Force. You had a couple other small groups who were in support of it. You had what became the IRA, but at the time was the IRB, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and they kind of coordinated with one another to try and take Ireland back, specifically in Dublin. What happened there was it was a massive fucking failure, and they brought armament ships, so ships with giant ass guns, into Dublin down the Liffey, and just started shelling it. That's why we have basically no census data from before. Like we have some stuff from 1911, some things from 1901, but it's a little bit patchy, because after they shelled the GPO where the records were kept, we don't have that part of our history anymore. It's super spotty. Fortunately, the census data from 1901 and 1911 were in the UK for the most part at the time, and they were later given back to us once we gained our independence and self-governance. But yeah, I'm going to keep calling him Maxwell because that's what I remember, but I think I'm actually wrong. If he didn't order the brutal execution of John Connolly, and the story of Joseph Mary Plunkett as well is a very powerful one, which helped sway the Irish people, about him getting married just 4 hours before his execution to his childhood sweetheart, who remained a widow for the rest of her life and became a symbol of Ireland's love for the people who sacrificed themselves to get us to the point we are today. It's very, very touching and whatever. But without them being murdered, let's put it that way, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to become a republic, because there wouldn't be popular... Like, people didn't like the UK. They wanted home rule because they thought they'd be able to gain independence at some point. But they weren't for an armed revolution. This is when everything changed.
Establish an Irish Republic. The rising took place over the course of just a few days, but nearly 500 people died, most of whom were civilians. But with far superior numbers, the British Army managed to suppress the rebellion. The result was an unconditional...
Yeah, you know who killed all those civilians? I think you know. They were shelling the place from the river.
Surrender by the rebel forces, and most of the rebel leaders were executed.
Only two who weren't executed was De Valera, who was currently still listed as an American citizen, and because of that he wasn't executed, because they were currently trying to get the US to join in the war against Germany, which at the time was considered by Americans to be the Great European War rather than the Great War as it was known by the end, because they got involved, of course. Pardon me. And the other one was Countess Markievicz, who was married to a Polish count, but that wouldn't have stopped them. The reason they didn't execute her is because she was a woman, so she couldn't have had a role in this. This was a tragedy. Women don't get involved in wars and armed conflicts.
And that went bad.
In the 1918 UK general election, an Irish political party.
Yeah, Sinn Féin, Eamon de Valera, the man who was not executed. David Lord George was currently the Prime Minister. And like, well, he was until Andrew Law took over. Yes, his middle name is Boner, and that is how it is pronounced. It's not Bonar or anything. It is Andrew Boner Law.
Party called Sinn Féin, who supported Irish
Yeah,
independence. And
that's the modern Sinn Féin logo.
participated in the Easter Rising, when 73 of the 105 Irish seats had the British Parliament. But they
Yeah, we still we still did quite well in the north. Like, as you can see there, the Unionists had a decent kind of selection. The Labour Unionists were like pretty much only found in Belfast and one or two segments of Dublin, which you can't actually see because Lud's face is in the way of it. Independent Unionists basically didn't exist at this point, but if you look at a previous map, they actually did a lot better. There's only a couple places throughout the what is now known to be the Republic, for example in Donegal, and down in what looks to be Waterford, possibly a little bit higher up, so maybe closer to Wexford. I'm not sure what those divisions were at the time, because these aren't the county divisions. These are electoral divisions. So yeah, the Irish Parliamentary Party, which was as John Redmond's party that pushed for Home Rule, often referred to simply as the Home Rule Party, dropped hugely, although it was still reasonably popular in Northern Ireland.
chose to not take their seats at the British Parliament and instead decided
Yeah,
to
they
form
abstained.
an Irish Parliament and proclaim an Irish Republic as a newly independent country.
Yeah, that's what happened. The first Dáil was held, and they were led by Eamon de Valera and Michael Collins. And yeah, they declared themselves independent.
The Irish Republic claimed the whole island of Ireland, but there was a lot of support for the Union in the north, especially in Ulster, in which 4 of the 9 counties won a unionist majority.
Ah, yes. So they
Which makes me ask, why do they have Tyrone? Why do they have Fermanagh? Like, they voted Republican. And actually, like, huge parts of Derry were Catholic and weren't Unionist. Because those two are very different things. People confuse this. Just because they're Catholic doesn't mean they're not necessarily Unionist. But in this case, yes. The vast majority of them were Catholic. There were huge pockets of Catholics. But because of gerrymandering and moving the lines, it basically meant that the Catholics could never win an election. Kind of like how people discuss that in America, gerrymandering has meant that black people's votes literally count for less because the places with the higher proportion of votes are have less black people being represented in them when they're actually going to the polling stations to vote. Basically meaning that the Republicans and usually because the Republicans tend to have more of a sway in those areas as because it's usually more rural areas that don't have a huge population of black people to begin with. So it was a very similar thing here with Catholics in Derry and Down. Antrim and Armagh were always pretty strong Unionists. So, yeah.
they said we have tried to do this by force for the past 700 years, and every
True.
time they just roll us and smoke us. And we just get absolutely trounced, and everybody just fucking dies.
Yeah.
So let's do this the petty way.
That-
Let's win an election.
That is what happened with a lot of rebellions like the Fenians, Wolf Tone, on all of that fun stuff The Fenians primarily came out of the potato famine, which hasn't been touched on in this video at all. It's a very, very key part of Irish history, so I don't know why that was neglected, but whatever. And like it really helped grow the disdain for the Irish people. Because bear in mind, all this is happening in 50, 60, 70 years afterwards. It's like the famine began in... Oh, there's some debate over that. Records of potatoes beginning to die off exist from 1841 on. The peak of the famine was in 1847, but didn't really die down across the country until about the 1860s. Yeah, and it wasn't that we only ate potatoes, which is another very common misconception. And the Irish should have diversified, because why would you only just eat potatoes? Idiots. That wasn't how it was at all. We grew the most of the, like, you know how the Ukraine is often referred to as the breadbasket of Europe because it provides so much grain to the rest of Europe? We were England's breadbasket at the time. We grew so many crops, but we weren't allowed to keep any of them because the British absentee landlords who owned all the land took all of that crop away, and we weren't given anything. The only thing we had was a plot of land which was too small to grow anything else other than potatoes because they're very low cost. So we were forced into using potatoes and then absolutely fucked when we couldn't reliably get it.
And then pretty much all of Ireland is like, we're this party. Not only are we this party, we're not like, and we've won the election. We're not going to show up to your shitty.
They didn't win the election. Ireland's vote didn't count as much. The Conservatives won by an absolute landslide, but we were relatively close to Labour, which was the second running. We officially made the UK a three-party system for literally 3 elections, or 2 elections even, not even a full 3.
Uptight meetings. We're just our own country now. That's what we've decided. And then Northern Ireland's like, well, okay, you know, I kind of like the system we got.
This led to the Irish War for Independence.
Yeah.
And back to fighting we go.
Yeah,
They were
in
hoping
1919
they could really get
to
away with that
2021.
one. They're
Or
hoping like maybe if we just say
1919
we're
to-
our own country, they'll be like, okay, smiley face.
Oh my god, my brain is fried. Okay, between 1919 and 1921.
Didn't work. Then they're like, all right, time for the guns again.
In 1920, with the war still ongoing, a 4th Home Rule Bill was passed, superseding the 3rd Home Rule Bill that was passed but never implemented. This partitioned Ireland into Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland.
Yep.
Northern Ireland consisted of 6 of the 9 counties of Ulster. This was despite 2 of them having a Catholic majority.
Which 2 had the Catholic majority? Come on. You know this. You saw the previous one. Fermanagh and Tyrone. Londonderry, as it is called by the English, Derry called by the Irish, or Free Derry, as the people from Derry refer to it. Oh well, that's just the city. The actual city itself, or big town, I don't know. It was a big town at the time anyway. Was predominantly Catholic, but very large rural parts of it were very heavily Protestant. So the county as a whole was as considered to be a Protestant, even though the major population centre was predominantly Catholic.
The rest of the island became Southern Ireland. The split was intended to be a temporary solution to the war.
And then Britain was like, okay. Dude, World War I just happened. World War II's about to happen. You guys are being a pain in the ass. We keep having...
It wasn't that long. It was literally 2 years. It was 1919, in 1920, and 1921. And then we kind of fought amongst ourselves for another 2 years after, until 1923, and we weren't declared a republic until 1949, after World War II.
stopping to like let soldiers fight you fucks, which is supposed to be our fucks. So we'll just do splitsies, little splitsies, one time for the one. A little bit though, just a quick splitsies. Then we can focus on it later.
They dropped the W in Carlo, which I'm not surprised by. No one cares about Carlo.
While the Northern Irish government was successfully established, the Southern Irish government was not. The war continued and the Southern Irish government never functioned. The Irish War for Independence lasted for 2.5 years, resulting in a ceasefire and the Anglo-Irish Treaty.
Which was super controversial. Oh my god, it was so controversial. It's absolutely insane. Brother fighting brother, quite literally. The Wind That Shakes the Barley is very good at covering the War of Independence and moving into treaty times with the Civil War. It's very good. It's got Cillian Murphy in it. I'd recommend giving it a watch. It is quite sad, I will say. So you kind of need a little bit of a stomach for it, but it's very enjoyable.
The treaty established the Irish Free State, which would become a dominion of the British Commonwealth, along with the likes of Canada, Australia and South Africa, among
we were so scared of getting shafted in those agreements that they literally had to add in a clause that said Ireland would be part of the Commonwealth, and then in brackets, it's in all ways as with Canada. So, because Canada was the most free of the states at that time, within the Commonwealth. So we were like, here, we want some of that. And we don't want to be like Australia. We don't want to be like New Zealand. We want to be like Canada. We want that same level of self-governance and control.
others at the time. The treaty included the whole island of Ireland, but had an opt-out clause for Northern Ireland, which they immediately exercised, so the short-lived Southern Ireland became the Irish Free State. Some were happy with the situation, but others were not. Many were unhappy that Ireland was still part of the British Empire and wanted total independence.
Exactly. That's what the Civil War was about.
Together in Ireland's war for independence were now on opposing sides of a civil war. The pro-treaty forces emerged victorious, affirming the status of the...
So what happened is the IRA, which was fighting for Irish independence in the War of Independence, broke up into two different groups. It was one still referring to themselves as the IRA and the other becoming the Free State Army. I know I'm buffering.
And it's funny because they're fighting, right? So the anti-treaty people are literally fighting a war against pro-treaty people just so that if they win that war, they can do another war against the British.
Yeah,
they're
pretty much.
fighting a war to fight a war.
After the war, the anti-treaty Sinn Féin refused to take their seats at the Irish Parliament in protest of the treaty. Because of this, their leader, Eamon de Valera, resigned from the party
and created Fianna Fáil.
And founded a new political party, Fianna Fáil, and they became the dominant political party in Ireland from 1932 onwards. He strongly opposed the treaty as well.
The first time they were not in power was, I believe, in the 1970s, 80s? I think it was the 1980s. And it was literally for a 5-term cycle. And then gone again. Then it was straight back to them. I don't think it was until 2011 where it was just like Fianna Fáil wasn't the one party everyone voted for. Fine Gael was involved. For a while there was a couple other parties that don't even exist anymore. Our Labour Party barely exists. There's like 6 members. And they never do very well.
But thought his former party's tactics were not helpful.
And then the leader was like, you guys are so cringe. We lost the war, and now we're not showing up, which is just being petty bitches. This is literally the crinkiest, dinkiest thing I've ever heard of in my life. Let's just make a new party. Like, the treaty blows, but, like, what are we doing? We're just killing other Irish people.
In 1937, a referendum was held for a new constitution to remove all British ties from Ireland.
So it feels like every time guns fail, they go to politics, and then they're like, okay, we'll go to politics.
56%
pretty much.
of people voted in favour, and Ireland adopted a new constitution, becoming a fully independent country. The country changed its name to Ireland. The country is often referred to as the Republic of Ireland to differentiate itself from the island of Ireland, but its official name is simply Ireland.
Well, technically, and it still is the case, technically it's called ERA, which is the Irish for Ireland. But yes, Correct.
This was to reflect the fact that Ireland's claimed territory was the entire island, believing the partition of Ireland to be illegitimate.
Which wasn't removed
Despite
until
this claim, though, Northern
the
Ireland became
that wasn't removed until the treaty following the Troubles, the Good Friday Agreement.
as part of the United Kingdom. Ireland exercised their independence by choosing to remain neutral in World War II, which started
True.
just 2 years later.
Kind of cringe. I get the Irish hated the English and the Protestants. Kind of cringe to be like fucking Joe Roganing it up.
Okay, the reason for that, quite simply, was we had just been fighting and we did not have the ability to go to war. Not even go to war. We didn't have the ability to survive being attacked. So we stayed out of it, basically. We remained neutral for this war. Whether or not people think that was a good idea or not is completely up to them. Although, technically speaking, we were benevolently neutral, which meant while we didn't participate in the war, we supplied the English with all of their fucking guns. Alright? We built bombs for them. So on the surface, we look like we're not fighting, we're not doing anything, but we're shipping them over armaments, and some of which we made, some of which were sent by America to us, who were also remaining benevolently neutral at the time, and then we were sending them over to England because they couldn't land in England, otherwise they would have been shot down by Hitler. And also, when people did start to come into, when the Americans did start to come into the war and were coming to the Western Front, they would fly into Ireland or Northern Ireland, and which is why there were so many war babies from Americans dropping by, having a good time with some of the women around, and leaving the babies without a father. And sometimes because they died or because they had a wife back home. Genuinely, 23andMe is wild. But yeah, get on with this because I still have a surprising amount left in this video.
Well, look, I just think we should take a look at both sides here, okay? Really?
And while that should be the end of the story, there were 3 decades of ongoing violence from the late 1960s to 1990s in a period known as the Troubles. The violence was mainly concentrated in Northern Ireland, but occasionally spilled over into Ireland, England, and even mainland Europe.
My parents have some very interesting stories about things that had happened, because Drogheda is in Louth, which is a border county, so whenever the violence spilled over into the Republic, it was usually into those counties. So I have some very interesting stories about some of the shit that's gone on in the Troubles.
Although the majority of Northern Ireland's population was Protestant and Unionist, there was a substantial minority that were Catholic and nationalist and wanted Northern Ireland to join the Republic. After 3 decades of conflict between various organisations and thousands of casualties, a ceasefire was called to put a stop to the violence in 1998 with the Good Friday Agreement. The agreement caused the Republic of Ireland to amend their constitution, removing their territorial claim over Northern Ireland.
Yep.
Ah, okay,
What?
so...
What did I say? What did I say? But yeah, basically meaning all my life the Troubles weren't a thing, but I grew up learning about them because my parents had directly been affected by it, so that's fun.
The claim was that they own all of Ireland because Ireland is an island, which makes it easy to identify with the entire island that it should be it, even though the people in the south, the fuck they give a shit about what people in the north are doing. They're like...
For a very long time we gave a big shit about what they were doing, because they were fighting a civil war, basically. Between Catholics and Protestants, and Unionists and Nationalists, more so that. But Irish people participated, like Republic of Irish people from the Republic of Ireland participated in it.
Like, this is Ireland. We fought for this. I want all of Ireland to be Ireland. But these people are like, we don't really want to be Ireland. Like, we're happy being the UK. And they're like, no, fuck that. And they kept trying to kill them so that they could get all of Ireland because they want all of Ireland. And then at some point, they're like, bro, so many people have died. I feel like we should just vibe. Like, I feel like we should just vibe out.
And the British and Irish governments agreed that if a majority of people in Northern Ireland wish to leave the United Kingdom and join the Republic, the governments will make it happen. The lasting impact of the Troubles can still be seen today, especially...
Yeah. And so about that clause, since Labour is no longer a very powerful force in the UK, the chances of that agreement being respected, specifically that article being respected, is often considered to be basically zero. And I believe Boris Johnson, it may have been who was it? Was it Cameron? It might have been David Cameron. I know a couple leaders have done it over the last while. Conservative leaders refuse to respect that and refuse to allow there to be an election or a referendum in Northern Ireland about what to do about it, because recently, based on various studies, it would be a very close call whether or not they'd want to rejoin Ireland or leave the UK. And now there's actually an increasing faction within it that's purely nationalist. They don't want to join Ireland. They want to be their own Northern Ireland, meaning that things are now stacked again based on the phrasing of the referendum. Do you want to stay in the UK or do you want to leave? If a majority of people are going to say they want to leave. But if it was phrased, do you want to leave the UK and join Ireland, and you only have those two choices, it would be a bit more difficult for some people. Some people might just abstain, in which case it would just come down to a Republican Unionist option. So it is a quite interesting situation now. Things have developed quite a lot.
In Belfast, in which there are walls that separate Protestant and Catholic communities, and
Yeah.
there is still occasional violence. However, the situation
It's not very
is
common.
improving, and the government has made a goal to remove all of these so-called peace walls by the year 2023.
Oh, cool.
They're still there, though.
So basically, the only reason Ireland and Northern Ireland are split is because King Henry wanted to divorce his wife.
Yes. Absolutely.
Wow. Are there any updates? Because it's been 6 years. I need an Irishman. Let me call Jack. Jack!
Oh,
Hey, Jack. I'm live on Twitch.television.
I thought you lived there.
Kind of at this point, yeah. But I've just learned about Ireland splitting Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. I figured it all out.
Okay, I would love for you to teach my history to me.
Yeah.
Are you Irish or Northern Irish?
I am Irish.
My understanding is that everything was good in Hollywood. Everybody was Catholic in all of what is now the United Kingdom.
Fair.
King Henry wanted to divorce his bitch wife, so he made Protestants the rule of the land. And then they fought over that for like 700 years until they basically split into two parts, one that was Protestant and the rest that are Catholic. Is that?
That's my understanding of it in the 31 years that I've been alive, yeah.
Okay,
We
perfect.
always talk about the kings and how they split, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's all that one king who just wanted a divorce.
It's
But
fairly accurate
the
so far.
question is, what's because the video ended and they're like, oh, everything's going kind of good, but apparently everyone's like, no, it's not going that good actually.
Oh.
Brexit. What did Brexit do? Is there any modern update?
Okay, yeah, Brexit really fucked shit up. Brexit, during Brexit, Scotland and Northern Ireland both voted to stay, but because they didn't have as much swaying power in the referendum, it still went through. And people in Northern Ireland who originally would have been kind of on the fence a little bit between the nationalist and the unionist section, not the Republican section. They tend to be pretty diehard. You either are or you aren't. Kind of flipped towards a more nationalist idea because being part of the EU brought them so much more benefits than being part of the UK does. So some people, based on that decision, wanted to leave, and some diehard unionists there was a lot of violence, and for a very short while it seems to have died down again, but don't quote me on that, and don't expect that to stay the same. But yeah, so things are a little all over the place. Back when this was recorded, this was 2021 on it was Yeah. Brexit had really, really messed things up.
It's. Oh, he left the.
Jack refused to talk about Brexit. All right, cool.
He left the call. What? Jack, you can't. What's happening in Ireland? Oh.
Hey, Ludwig, I'm back. I'm at my house. What's going on?
I was just asking, if you could enlighten us on the feud between Ireland and Northern Ireland and any modern day updates.
Well, I kind of tend to stay out of the whole thing on account of not really knowing what is going on.
Is it heated?
Ludwig, I'm going to be honest with you. I have no fucking idea.
What do you mean, Jack? You're like my Irish.
I taught the history in school. I'm not in school anymore. I moved to England. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I just don't like getting into that stuff. I didn't know anything
it is
about
very
it.
controversial stuff.
People can deal with this. Smarter people, more capable people. I was like, I just want to fucking watch Yu-Gi-Oh and collect.
Ask
Pokemon
Minx.
cards.
That makes
Ask
sense.
RT game. Yeah,
Chat.
good
They'll
choices.
tell you everything you need to know. They know everything.
All right, so the official Irish correspondent now living in the UK says, watch Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah,
He
fair.
left the call again. Minx, we can call Minx. And then RT Game, I think I just saw you in chat. RT Game, can you enlighten me as well? We're going to go through. I need to learn about Ireland. This is the learning hour. Minx, first of all.
I know the video you were looking at.
Okay.
I know the video.
All right.
And I heard what Jack said, and I don't know why he's sitting here as an Irish man saying, I don't want to get involved. The English fucking stole our fucking half our country.
God, she's aggressive.
Those greedy prickheads you see the size of their fucking place, right? You see the size. You see the.
Well,
yeah,
it is pretty
huge.
big. Yeah.
They didn't need it. They didn't need it. They're just greedy. The moral of the story is the English are rude, and that's why my new movement is Free Scotland. Scotland, they did not want to leave the European Union, okay? But no, the English said Brexit. Brexit.
Yeah, that's true.
But wasn't it was just Protestant English and Scottish people implanted by the United Kingdom's government?
So the Scottish plantations worked a lot better because the Scottish didn't hate the Irish the same way the English did. So that's why Ulster, where the Scottish plantations were focused, worked a lot better. Also, the Scottish, way back, Scotty was the term referred to, that the Irish referred to by as, they were referred to as the Scotty by the Romans. And then what happened is the Ulster Scotty went over into Scotland, massacred the Picts, and said, this is ours now. So a lot of people in Ulster who'd be on the nationalist side of things would identify more with Scotland than they would Ireland in a lot of cases, even though they're feckin' touching us. Yeah.
Government to basically expand Protestants throughout the Catholic Irish
Yeah, that's
land.
true.
And so if they're just there.
It was less to do with adding more Protestants and more to do with increasing the level of control they had. But the easiest way to do that is make the people the same religion as us. So, yeah.
Because, they were planted to be there.
Who gives a fuck whether you're a Protestant or Catholic?
Isn't that
I just want my country back. I just want my country.
You just want all of Ireland to be unified because of pride for your country.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just wish we spoke the same language sometimes.
That's
rude.
rude.
All right, Mix. Thank you
rude.
for all
Yeah,
the
you're welcome.
information. I'm gonna talk to RT Game and then I'll make my final verdict.
Bye.
Enjoy your stream. Bye. Okay, I'm learning so much. Hello.
How's it going, man?
It's
Jesus,
going
you
well.
just had a very angry call with Minx there, I see.
Well,
How's it going?
Minx is certainly, I would say, as Jack is a much more passive man. Minx.
Yeah, Minx seems to be the most aggressive so far. RT seems to be quite chill. Jack, he was pretty, ignorant, I suppose is the right term. In the best way. Like, he just isn't fully aware of the situation and doesn't want to comment on it because he isn't 100%. on it. So that's fair.
I think is, you know, about as passionate as it gets.
Passionate is the word I would
Yeah.
use. Yes. Well, I mean, most of the you just have a lot of political division because they voted to stay basically, and then Republic of Ireland went a different route, and we kind of fought for our freedom. And it's not as easy of like a unifying process between the
True.
two now, because they're very divided up there. A lot of the conflict you have for the old North and South, things got a bit better with things like the Good Friday Agreement towards the latter half of the 20th century, and this idea of a shared European identity.
Yes.
But
That made things chill out quite a bit.
That's all come into question, sure, with stuff like Brexit and that.
Do they
And
ever
just
have a
want to tough
revote?
it out that way. I mean, there's always been talk of a revote.
Yeah, there's
but,
never been a revote.
Never officially. Nothing of that has come to light. It's all up in the air again, though, because of the stuff like Brexit, because they really wanted to stay in the EU. And again, a lot of the troubles in the north were kind of, I guess, eased, and that tension reduced because of the shared European identity. Didn't matter if you were fucking like English or Irish, you were European. And
At
so,
least
you know,
you
everyone
were
got
connected
on
by
a bit
that.
better.
Yeah. So now Ireland's got nothing to do with the UK, right? Like, just the Republic of Ireland got nothing to do with it at all.
I mean, we're a separate country. We're heavily
Yeah.
involved.
We're heavily involved in trade. Even still. It's kind of shifting a bit more towards America because it's becoming increasingly expensive to trade with the UK because they're no longer part of the EU. Customs taxes are quite high, so it's come down quite a bit.
Like they're our biggest like trading partner in that.
Sure. But Brexit will
but-
make things really cringe to just even like go to Northern Ireland, do commerce with Northern Ireland.
That's still in question. What's going to happen about that? Because with Brexit, technically speaking, we're the only land border with a part of the UK, and that means there needs to be a border, some level of protected border, which was always the biggest no-go for Republicans in Northern Ireland, and for die-hard Republicans who want to see a united Ireland in the Republic as well.
Brexit will make things cringe. Politics reduced in its simplest and basic form.
Is that accurate though?
Yeah, very.
I mean, it definitely complicates things. I mean, it definitely makes things awkward because, you know, like we're the European market. UK's no longer the European market. We want to keep free travel between the two.
Do you feel culturally different from Northern Irish in a major way? Could you sniff out a Northern Irish person in a pub?
If I heard them speak, yes. Besides that, not really. They look like us.
The way we look at it here in Ireland is we're all Irish. We just all want to get along at the end of the day. We don't want to be
True.
like picking each other apart. It is like kind of weird for like Irish history because like there's that possibility that the North just kind of comes back and it's one united Ireland again.
Yeah,
I think
it's a
Star
very
Trek
weird
predicted that it's
prospect.
going to happen in like 2024.
Really?
So, you know, keeping it. Apparently, yeah. It's
That's
like,
kind of hype.
I mean, I'd like to see it that we're all on this, you know, rock in space, hurtling to our dooms together. So the better we get along, you know, the better life is.
That's wise.
You know.
Well, Dan,
Orty seems to both be very knowledgeable about the situation, very keyed into kind of what's going on, and has probably the most interesting and introspective look at the situation, where he's not getting too emotional about it. He's not really getting too much into it. He just wants everything to be okay, which I respect.
Daniel, it was a pleasure.
It's lovely talking to you.
All right,
all the best.
Have a good rest of your evening.
You too. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. Wow, what a pleasant man. RT Games. Okay, I feel like we got all three
His chat needs to stop with all that up the rash shit, like.
perspectives. Jack, who's like, I don't know. Minx, who's like, yeah, fuck everyone. Free Scotland.
Yeah.
And then RT Game, who's like, well, it is a little more complex than that. Actually, it's a pretty deep history. At the end of the day, I hope what's best is what's best. And I feel now, after consuming the knowledge of those three, the knowledge of the video, I will surmise all of it. So it starts when England takes over Ireland, and then the Pope Catholic Church Pope, Italy guy,
1169. Yeah.
gives Pope powers to the King of England to pick the religion of Ireland.
Yeah.
King Henry, who eventually becomes the king, wants to divorce his bitch wife. Pope's like, no, that's not our thing. He says, fuck that. He makes the Church of England. He's the leader of the church, and now England's Protestant. Ireland and Irish people mauled because they're Catholic. England controls Ireland's England's control of Ireland wanes, except for the north, because over years and years and years, one king injected a bunch of Protestant, English, and Scottish people to have sex and make a group of people that won't assimilate in Ireland, and they'll be Protestant, and it worked. So now there's a group of Protestants in Ireland.
It was James
most
I
of
that
Ireland's
did that.
Catholic. Over 500 years, Ireland fights for independence from England, and every single time, they literally get rolled and smoked. Eventually, they create a political party that wins the majority of the seats in Ireland, and they just say, we're not going to be a part of the British Parliament. Not only that, we're going to be our own thing. It's called Sinn Féin. They sign a treaty in the early 20th century to be a part of the British Commonwealth, but still independently ran. There's a clause that the North can secede and be fully UK if they want. The North
They do
immediately
that.
backs out.
Yeah,
Then
immediately.
the South splits into two political parties, Sinn Féin and Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin's really mad at Sinn Féin, so they have a civil war so that one group of Sinn Féin can fight the North. So they
It's not Sinn Féin. It's the IRA and the Free State Army, but everything else has been right so far. So this is a very minor nitpick, Ludwig. So fair play.
can be fully independent and Irish can be full at once. But Sinn Féin loses to Sinn Féin, and so then Sinn Féin actually has its leader leave and make a new party. The new party signs something into a declaration that's like, fuck the UK, we're our own people. And the UK's
Yeah.
like, okay, but the North is still ours. And everyone's like, okay, but then the entire 20th century, everyone in Ireland is like, fuck North Ireland! And they shoot them every like decade or so. And then on Good Friday, they're like, let's sign a treaty, a ceasefire. And so they're like, we're not gonna fight anymore. But everything thought it was over until UK fucks up and creates Brexit, and everyone in Ireland is like, this shit is cringe. And so now, finally, after 800 years, Ireland might be one country again, like predicted in Star Trek.
Very, very well surmised, Lud. Very few minor inaccuracies, some things that were glossed over that were a lot bigger deal than he let on. But overall, very, very good. I mad respect, Lud. That for someone who went from knowing absolutely nothing about the situation, you have a very clear idea in your mind of what is going on with Ireland and Northern Ireland and the general history around it. So congratulations, you have been history degree approved. I don't know. I don't have a catchphrase. What do I do? Oh God. But yeah. So very, very, very well done. All right. So that was the video. I am so sorry that was so long. That was very, very long. But it was a lot of fun watching and reacting to this. I gave some commentary. I made it twice as long as the original video was. Actually, more than that. So sorry about that. But I had a lot of fun. Please do like, comment, subscribe if you got this far. If you listened to me ramble for an hour and 15 minutes, I think you already know you should be subscribed at this point, but you just haven't yet. So please do comment if you want me to react to other Irish things. I'd be happy to do that. I don't want to go full reaction. I like doing my gaming stuff. I like talking about D&D. So like, I'm not going to go full react, but they are rather simple videos to do. They are enjoyable videos to do. So maybe we'll do more of that in future if you guys enjoy. So that's all from me. Adios.